The night smelled of orange blossoms and danger. Somewhere deep in Marrakesh's labyrinth of alleyways, a lone figure ran, her white silk dress slicing through the shadows like moonlight through clouds. Every turn she took echoed with the hurried slap of her sandals against ancient stone. The marketplace had long since closed, yet the scent of spices lingered, clinging to the air as if afraid to let the day go. A voice followed her. Deep. Commanding. Too close. Miss Vale. You cannot hide forever. Her heart thudded so hard it drowned the sound of her own breathing. She didn't look back, she knew what she'd see. That man in the tailored suit, always walking, never running, like he already knew she would tire before he did. Turning sharply, she slipped into a narrow side alley where the shadows were thicker, the silence heavier. That's when she saw him. A stranger. Leaning against the wall, playing an oud, its soft, haunting notes spilling into the night like whispered secrets. His eyes met hers. Golden brown. Almost amused. Almost dangerous. He didn't move, didn't speak, until the suited man's footsteps neared. Then, with a motion so smooth it felt rehearsed, the stranger took her hand and pulled her into the dark recess behind a carved wooden door. His voice was a low murmur against her ear. Breathe, Habibti. You're safe now. Her pulse didn't slow, not because of the man chasing her, but because of the one holding her. For a long, breathless moment, all she could hear was the rhythm of his heart, steady and unhurried, as if danger didn't dare touch him. The man with the oud didn't let go of her hand, not even when the suited stranger passed so close she could smell his cologne, sharp, expensive, and cold. They waited. 1 second. 2. Then the footsteps faded into the maze. Only then did he release her, the moonlight spilling through the carved gaps in the wooden door painting his jawline in silver. You shouldn't be running through the Medina alone, he said in that deep, accented voice. She swallowed, still catching her breath. And you shouldn't be pulling strange women into dark corners. His lips curved. Ah, but if I hadn't, you'd be having a very different conversation right now, with a man I suspect you'd rather not see. She studied him, the easy stance, the way his eyes seemed to weigh everything yet reveal nothing. The oud hung loosely by his side now, as if it had been waiting for her before. Who are you? She asked. A question best answered over tea, he replied, pushing the door open. A wave of warm air and the scent of mint drifted out. Beyond it was a hidden courtyard lit only by lanterns, their light flickering over mosaic tiles and a fountain that whispered softly into the night. She hesitated. He smiled faintly, as though he'd seen that hesitation before in 100 other faces. My name, he said, bowing slightly, is Rafiq. And you, white dress, are either the luckiest or unluckiest woman I've met this week. The courtyard was an oasis of calm, as if the chaos of the Medina had been sealed behind the heavy wooden door. A single cat lounged near the fountain, its golden eyes following her every step. Rafiq gestured to a low table draped with deep red cloth. Please, he said, sit. She lowered herself onto the cushioned seat, her pulse still racing from the chase. He moved with quiet efficiency, setting a brass teapot between them and pouring steaming amber liquid into small glass cups. The sweet, heady scent of mint curled into the air. You still haven't told me your name, he said, sliding a cup toward her. She hesitated, her fingers brushing the warm glass. Lena. Lena, he repeated, as if tasting the sound. Not Moroccan. Not even close, she said. He sipped his tea without breaking her gaze. And yet you walk alone at night in Marrakesh. She almost laughed, almost. I wasn't alone. I had company. Company that chases you through the alleys? She flinched. His voice wasn't mocking, it was quiet, probing. It's complicated, she said at last. I like complicated, Rafiq replied. But something in his eyes, a flicker, almost gone, made her realize that he meant it. He set his cup down. Tell me why you were running. You don't have to tell me everything. Just enough for me to decide whether I should keep you here, or let you go. There was something dangerous about him, not the kind of danger that threatened, but the kind that could protect, or consume. So she told him. Not all of it. But enough. About the man in the suit. About the envelope she was carrying in her bag. About how she was supposed to deliver it to someone she'd never met, in a cafe she'd never been to, before midnight tonight. Rafik didn't interrupt. He just listened, his fingers obsessively plucking at the strings of the oud beside him, each note low and aching. When she finished, the silence stretched. Finally, he leaned back. You don't know it yet, Lena, but you've just stepped into something far bigger than you imagined. Her throat tightened. And you, she asked. What part do you play in it? He smiled then, but it wasn't warm. Let's just say, you're not the only one being hunted tonight. The cafe was almost empty, the air heavy with cardamom and cigarette smoke. A single bulb flickered above the counter, casting long, crooked shadows over the tiled floor. Lena's heels clicked softly as she entered, her eyes scanning the room. The man she was supposed to meet wasn't there, or at least, no one matched the vague description she'd been given, tall, wearing a gray scarf, sitting alone. Rafik followed her inside but didn't sit. Instead, he took up a position near the doorway, his presence as still and watchful as a sentry. She chose a table by the window. The envelope in her bag felt heavier with every passing minute. The waiter approached, his voice low. Coffee? She nodded. Strong. 10 minutes passed. 15. No sign of the man. Then the door opened, and a gust of cold night air swept in. A tall figure stepped inside, gray scarf, dark coat, and eyes that found hers instantly. Lena's heartbeat stumbled. He approached without hurry, his movements measured. Sliding into the seat across from her, he spoke in a voice like silk. You have something for me. Her fingers tightened on the bag. Do you have the password? His smile was slow, deliberate. He leaned forward, whispering it, the exact phrase she'd been told to expect. Relief loosened her chest, until she caught Rafik's expression by the door. He wasn't relieved. He was tense, coiled, like a man about to strike. Something was wrong. Before she could react, Rafik was moving, his voice sharp. Lena! Don't! The man in the scarf's smile faded. His hands slid under the table. A metallic click echoed in the silence. The waiter froze mid-step. Outside, a motorbike revved in the distance. Rafik's eyes locked with hers. Whatever's in that envelope, he said, his voice low but urgent, isn't what you think it is. And if you give it to him, you won't walk out of here alive. For one fragile heartbeat, no one moved. The man in the gray scarf's hand remained hidden beneath the table. Rafik's weight shifted toward him, every muscle ready. Lena's pulse thundered in her ears, the cafe's dim light turning the scene into a shadow play of intent and suspicion. Let go of the bag, the man said quietly, his eyes never leaving hers. Rafik's voice cut through the air, sharper now. Lena, you don't know what's in it. But he does. That's why he's here first. A bead of sweat traced down the side of the stranger's face. I know exactly what's in it, and I know what happens if it falls into his hands instead. Her gaze flicked between them. Two men. Two truths. No proof. Then the sound came faint, muffled, wrong, like the metallic snap of a safety being released. Her instincts decided before her mind did. She tipped the coffee cup forward, sending a wave of steaming liquid across the table. The man in the scarf jerked back with a curse, and in that instant, Rafik was moving, shoving the table aside, grabbing her by the arm. The cafe erupted. Chairs clattered, the waiter shouted, and somewhere outside a bike roared closer. They burst through the back door into a narrow alley that smelled of old fruit and diesel. Lena's breath came ragged. Where are we going? She gasped. Somewhere they can't follow, Rafik said, but the sound of pounding footsteps behind them proved he was wrong. The alley split ahead, two paths in shadow. Left or right, she demanded. Rafik didn't answer. Instead, he pulled something from his coat. A small brass coin with an unfamiliar symbol etched into it, and placed it in her palm. Hold on to this, he said. If we get separated, find the place marked by this sign. Don't speak to anyone until you're inside." Before she could question him, the sound of their pursuers grew louder and Rafik shoved her toward the right-hand path. She stumbled forward, the coin digging into her skin, and when she turned back, he was gone. The right-hand path plunged Lena into darkness. The walls leaned inward, damp with centuries of dust and shadow. She could hear the echo of her own steps and the second echo, too, lighter, faster, following. Her fingers tightened around the brass coin. The etching caught on her skin, a crescent moon above a key. She didn't know the meaning, but it felt like a promise. Every turn in the Medina was a gamble. Narrow corridors opened into cramped courtyards, then tightened again into suffocating alleys. Somewhere above, laundry swayed in the warm night breeze, masking glimpses of the moon. She ducked past a spice stall, the air thick with cinnamon and cumin. The vendor's eyes flicked to the shadows behind her, then away, as if he knew better than to see too much. The footsteps were closer now. A voice, low and deliberate, called out in Arabic. She didn't understand the words, but the tone was unmistakable. "Stop." Her pulse screamed at her to run faster, but her lungs were near their limit. Then, as she rounded another corner, she saw it, half hidden by the peeling plaster of an archway. The same crescent moon and key, carved into the wood above a narrow door. She hurried toward it, knocking once, twice, 3 times in quick succession. Nothing. The footsteps thundered nearer. She pressed the coin against the carving, and the door gave way beneath her hand. Inside, the world shifted. The noise of the street cut off like a blade through rope. She stood in a dim, candlelit room, its air cool and scented with orange blossoms. A figure emerged from the far shadows, a woman draped in black silk, her face partly veiled. "You carry Rafik's coin," she said, her voice like soft glass. "Then you've brought trouble to my door." Before Lena could reply, the woman closed the door with a single motion. And in the silence, the sound of the coin hitting the table seemed louder than Lena's own breath. The woman's eyes, dark as wet stone, studied Lena with unnerving stillness. "You are not from here," she said. It wasn't a question. "No," Lena admitted, her voice still tight from running. "Rafik sent me." At the name, the woman's hand twitched almost imperceptibly before she gestured toward a low table scattered with maps, papers, and a dagger whose blade gleamed even in the candlelight. "Sit." Lena obeyed, every sense alert. The woman poured 2 small glasses of mint tea, the steam curling between them like a silent conversation neither dared to start. "I am Zara," the woman said finally. "Keeper of the passages." Lena frowned. "Passages?" Zara's eyes flicked toward the walls. "Beneath Marrakesh runs a network older than the Medina above. Old smugglers' routes. Tunnels carved for kings and thieves alike. Rafik knows them. He also knows they are not empty." The words sat in Lena's mind like a weight. "And the man chasing me?" Zara's voice dropped. "He wears the mark of the crescent jackals, men who hunt without mercy. They want what you carry." Lena's hand instinctively closed over the coin. "But it's just..." "It is not just anything," Zara cut in sharply. "It is the seal to a door that has not been opened in 100 years. And now you bring it to me, with them at your heels." From somewhere far above, muffled shouts echoed through the walls. Zara's gaze hardened. "You will not leave this place the way you came. If you value your life, you follow me now. And you do not speak. Not once." She took a lantern, pressed a panel in the wall, and the plaster swung inward to reveal a narrow stone staircase spiraling down into darkness. Lena hesitated only for a second, then followed. The door closed behind them with a sound like a lock turning on the entire city. The stairs swallowed them into cool, stale air. The lantern light licked at rough walls where carvings, some ancient, some fresh, whispered of past lives. Lena could hear water somewhere, faint but constant. "Keep close," Zara murmured. They passed through corridors so narrow Lena's shoulders brushed the damp stone. Occasionally, Zara would pause, listening, before veering into another passage. The deeper they went, the more Lena felt the city above was another world entirely. Finally, they stepped into a low chamber lit by a shaft of moonlight pouring from a crack in the ceiling. In the center stood an iron door, rusted but solid. Zara gestured to the coin. "Place it here." Lena approached, heart hammering. She slid the coin into a hollow in the door's face. With a groan that seemed to shake the earth, the lock disengaged. The door swung inward to reveal stacks of wooden chests, some rotting, others bound with brass. Inside the first chest Lena opened were silks, gold coins, and scrolls wrapped in oilskin. "This is what they want," Zara said. "A king's ransom and relics. But there is something else, something more dangerous." From the far corner, she pulled a long, narrow box and handed it to Lena. "This must leave the city tonight." Lena opened it and froze. Inside lay a dagger of pale crystal, its hilt set with a single blood-red gem that seemed to pulse faintly. "It chooses its master," Zara said. "If it is taken by the wrong hands, Marrakesh will burn." They sealed the chamber and retraced their steps, but halfway to the surface, voices echoed from ahead. Torchlight flared in the tunnel. "The crescent jackals," Zara hissed. There was no time for stealth. Zara shoved Lena toward a side passage. "Run!" The tunnels became a blur of shadow and stone as Lena sprinted, the box clutched tight. Behind her, boots pounded and shouts grew louder. A figure appeared at the end of the passage, Rafik. His eyes widened at the sight of her. "Down," he barked. She dropped instinctively as he swung a curved blade, catching the first jackal square in the chest. The rest faltered, but more poured in from the rear. "This way." Rafik grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward a ladder leading up to a hidden trapdoor. They burst into the night air, the Medina alive with moonlight and noise, and plunged into the crowd. They ran until the Medina thinned and the desert wind touched their faces. At the edge of the city, a single white horse waited, tied to an olive tree. "Go," Rafik said, pressing the reins into her hands. "The dagger must reach the port in Tangier. From there, a ship will take it beyond their reach." Lena looked at him. "Come with me." His expression was unreadable. "My fight is here. Yours is to keep the fire from falling into their hands." She hesitated, then reached into her bag, taking the coin and pressing it into his palm. "If we meet again, use this." Rafik gave a faint smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. "We will meet again." Marrakesh is a small city for those who walk by moonlight. Lena swung onto the horse. As she rode away, the Medina's golden light shimmered like stars spilled across the earth. Somewhere behind her, Rafik vanished into the maze of streets, the coin glinting in his hand. And as the moon climbed higher, Lena felt the weight of the crystal dagger in her satchel, a promise and a threat, and knew her journey had only just begun.